I think we can all agree that the current state of the internet is just not that great. You'll log on and then you're bombarded with AI, which has unfortunately infiltrated almost everything we use. There's bots everywhere. They're in my comments, they're in my DMs. And also, why do I need an account for everything? Just why? And every website, if you think about it, looks the same. And what is supposed to be advertised as convenience, I think, is hurting the human component of the internet, right? I think nowadays it's a pretty hostile environment for creators, and I think overall the internet and social media is in shambles compared to what it used to be. So a while ago, I posted this YouTube short of a webpage that I made, and a lot of you guys really liked it. A lot of people in the comments were asking how I made it, if I could make a tutorial. But let's backtrack a bit. How did we get here? Meet the indie web. For the longest time, I already knew that I wanted to make a website, but what was holding me back is where would I even start? Because I don't know how to code and I'm broke. I'm not going to pay for anything to make that website. And I was just stuck. But then I saw that a couple mutuals of mine were showing off their own web pages. They were making pages for their OCs and projects. And then I thought, well, wait, maybe I can still make this thing. And one of the things that I noticed is that they were hosted through a website called Neocities. So Neocities is based off an old website called GeoCities, which back in the 90s and early 2000s hosted personal websites. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore. But Neocities is kind of like the modern equivalent of that. So when you go to Neocities the first time, you go to the websites tab, and this is where you can find all the websites that people have made. You can sort it by tag or, whatever is the most popular. But one of the great things is that these are all made by real people. No website looks the same. When you're browsing, you really get a sense of that person's interests and personality. This kind of creative freedom that most places don't allow nowadays. And one thing that I really like is that there's a strong sense of community here. It's common practice that people will link to other web pages that they like. For example, there's these things called web rings, which are basically groups that will link to each other based off a theme. You can go and sign people's guest books. Check on their website updates or their status. Some people add personal touches like having a blog. Maybe they'll make buttons for their website that other people can link back to. Some people might even have shrines for their favorite characters. Everything that I explained is really just the tip of the iceberg. There's no way I could get into everything here. It'd probably be hours long. But I think getting into the indie web is a rabbit hole you should go and experience out yourself. There's a lot of great things you can find in there. And, I probably should have prefaced this, but Neocities isn't the only site like this. It's just the most popular example I could think of. And, some of you might be seeing this and be like, that's really cool. But how did I make my webpage and how do you make one? So there will be a part 2 where I show everything step by steps just so you have the basics. It will be linked down below. But all you really need to know is you just need some imagination and some basic knowledge in HTML and CSS. And some of you might hear that and go, I thought you need a degree to code. And I totally get it because I was also like that at one point. But just know that tons of people in this community also started exactly where you are at some point. I think with the right resources and some Googling, you can pretty much do anything. But I think it's about time that we do a tour of my webpage. So by the time this video is up, this version of the site won't be up anymore. I moved off Neocities and actually have my own website now. And I remade it again. So this will kind of be like a video archive of it. But yeah, so we have our landing page here. It tells a little bit about the site and what to expect. I have a couple of these buttons that I saw from other people. On the side there is also a couple other buttons and some graphics that I saw that I saved. Also here's our site update section. I haven't updated since last year. And I did see someone else do this cool thing where they kind of had like their characters in a way that you could like move them. These aren't movable, but I kind of wanted to make it like kind of like a status button thing where I could actually change this in real time. I tried to make it look like a sticker on a sketchbook. And then here we kind of have like our guest book. Just because I want it to be accessible on the main page, so it's kind of a bit like a chat box. And one thing I really like on these old style of websites is that there's like clickable elements. So here, if you click on this, it will actually take you to the about section. And there's a little bit about me. Someone had like a old card captor Sakura GIF floating around when I was looking at old web stuff, and then I made a couple of these stamps because I couldn't find certain things. DeviantArt days, yeah. So then in the comics section, because I do have a few comics, I was putting like a little bit about what each comic was about, and since I'm working on a new comic, I had a coming soon section. And then, you know, links where you can read it. I think for the gallery page was a bit hard, if I remember correctly. Oh yeah, I think I remade it. There's since the TikTok, I believe. So this is like where the site starts to look a little bit different. That's because I was remaking it to be mobile friendly. So there's a little bit about the art itself. And then you can scroll down and see some of my favorite pieces of art. And then for the blog section, there's not that much on the blog. But one thing I was really happy about is if you click on it, you know, it takes you to the page. And then I would have, you know, I would have recommendations at the end of each blog post, like what I was currently watching, some useful stuff, and like a YouTube video of the day kind of thing. And then for people that wanted to keep up with it but didn't have access to the site, they could subscribe to the RSS feed. And this is my links section where I was, you know, linking my page. This is my button, which I need to redo. These are a couple of mutual / people's sites that I really like. And then a lot of people do this thing where they'll share resources or like web pages that they like. So there's like some webcomic resources that I've made. There's some coding stuff that I thought, and then there's an other section. Because I didn't have this page for that long, it didn't really get to like, you know, make a bunch of secret pages or what's the word? Like expand on it. That's what the news site is for. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of how it turned out. I actually remade this site several times if I remember correctly. But that's the great thing about like these web pages is that they're ever evolving. You can change what you don't like. You can always update it, and it just kind of adapts with you as your tastes change. But yeah, definitely stick around for part 2. And part 2 will just be like an intro to the basics, just so you can get the ball rolling. And big thank you to my Ko-fi supporters for making this video possible. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!